Hey, Pusnet. So this will be in the first of the series. A lot of people seemed like they were very interested in that when I did my announcement about my giveaway. So I thought we'd do a quick video on ham versus self-reliance and a little bit what's the difference and things like that. Mostly what I'll be talking about, because I'm not too familiar with outside North America. I know a little bit more I know about the Canadian system for sure. The American a little bit more because when I've learned, that's what I did. And we'll be talking a little bit more about why to get your license and how to get your license. But a few books that to recommend first, I'll put some link down. But the first one is for Dummies. There's a lot of emergency communication stuff out there, but I found when you read them, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, I know about that. But the book for Dummies was very descriptive about all the different radios, what they brings, their advantage, their disadvantage, what to learn about them, and things like that. So it was a nice book, not too expensive, and covers a little bit of stuff. So I would go with that one. And also for the exam, I'll put a bunch of resources that I followed through, especially this website in the States, but even the Canadian people that would like to do their exam. Yeah, a lot of the stuff he covers is covered in her exams as well. Although the American exam is a little bit different than our system. Basically, we have in Canada, we have two licenses. You got the basic and you have the advanced. In the States, they have three exams. They have the technician, the extra, and another one, I think. And that system, how it works is a little bit that those three categories in the States is exactly the same thing as in Canada, but in Canada we have our basic is separate in two. So you can have the basic, which I got because I got less than 80 on my first exam, but I just redid my exam now and I have more than 80. So the first exam that you're going to do is the basic, and basically the basic is learning how to and it's not so much learning how to use a radio, but more the rules on how to use the radio. Because technically, I mean, if you want to go and listen radios, you can go and buy right now, because it's only when you transmit that you need a license. You don't need any license to listen. So right now you could go buy all the gear you want and listen as much as you want. It's just as you transmit, then you need rules. You need the license, and the license is really to make sure that you're safe when you're transmitting. But just by reading, like if I buy a radio, even like now, if I have a license, every radio I buy, they all have different things. Some function are relatively the same, but each company have their different ways. That's why some people like more Yaesu than ICOM or other stuff. So each radio that you buy has their own thing, so you need to read all the manuals on how to use them. But some of the concept, I mean, transmission is transmission, airway propagation is airway propagation. So this is why the license, so you can understand that concept. And when you do your exam, there's basically three strategy about it. The first one is basically there's a bank of question. I know in Canada it's 1,000, and some people, that's what they do. They learn about all the 1,000 answered, and when they go to the exam, it's 100 question out of the 1,000. So they're all known. You can learn all those questions and do the exam. And I know some people, that's what they do. There's a second way of doing it is basically learning more about, so if you're a technician or you're pretty savvy with radio waves or whatever, you can just try the exam based on your knowledge of electronics and stuff like this, and you'll probably have a score and you'll be able to get a license. And then there's a third way, which is the way I recommend, and this is how I learned it, is a little bit of both of the other side. So you learn some question, because there's some question you're like, I don't quite understand the answer, but they want me to answer that, you answer that. And then there's the second one, the more technical part on propagations, electronics, and stuff like that. And so that the part when you buy a book, you self-taught. So you can go to class, you can teach yourself or watch a lot of YouTube. That's the part that I did. The course I did was not terribly, it was not very good, but I know there's some good course there. out there, and usually they're about 6 or 7 weeks, and you do your different exams. But now we talk about passing an exam on your license, but why should we get that? Well, so first, what is the difference between an AM and a self-reliance? Well, first of all, an AM likes to talk. And because this is the reason they get their license, or else they would listen and stuff. The purpose of this is the propagation. So how can I talk to everything and stuff? But I will make a case that in self-reliance communication, it's more about listening. Because a ham, when we talk about, for example, DXing, what they want to do is reach a certain part of the world, very specific, and they want to talk to this part. And so it's all about having the bigger antenna, having the bigger power, and how I'm going to orient my communication so I can chat and everything. But in self-reliance communication, mostly what you want to know is what's happening, because you're now there. The grid is down. There's no more news. There's no more TV. There's no more electricity. No more phone. No more cell tower. So what is it? What's happening out there? Where's the next flood? Where's the riot? Where, if I want to get out of there, how can I take the proper stuff? So that's the kind of communication we're looking for. So even when we talk about long distance communication, we're not talking that far. So we're not like, for example, on the left, which is DXing, and you're in Europe and you want to talk to North America and South America and Africa and all those places. That's not really important for us so much in self-reliance as regional. So maybe past the local, but you want to maybe, your states, or at least your, so for example, here in Canada, because I'm on the West Coast, people from Oregon, Washington would be in the same situation if there would be a big earthquake, the Cascadia Rise. The Cascadia Rise exercise was about that. So if there's the Cascadia earthquake, then what will be affected all this, but I want to know what's going on out there, because if I want to try to get out, where should I go and things like that. So even when we talk about long distance, there's a difference between the DXing and the communication where it was. So one of them will use like big antennas radiating to a lot of places. They'll try all kind of different modes, because depending of the day and then the gray. And I think in self-reliance, we don't need that much. Really, what we want is what we call NVIS, which stands for Near Vertical Incident Skywave, and it's that situation that you have here on the right. So basically, what it is that when you propagate, you go in a certain angle, and it comes back to Earth, but on a very a shorter distance than, for example, on the left side, because of the propagation that you do. But it's great because it works a little bit better. It's less limited by the weather. I mean, it still is, but not as much as things, and you can limit your the band you're going to use, and that means that you don't need as bigger antennas and things like that. And a lot of the armies use this type of communication because, again, it's more reliable. And like, for example, for antenna, like you see here, even if mountains, you can talk about it. You can talk to other people, which in VHF and stuff you couldn't be able to reach. And then it's also not dependable on repeaters and things, which would be probably go down. Like, even if you have an earthquake here, even if the repeater has all these solar panels and stuff, if the repeater goes down because the earthquake just shook him off and it went down, well, then I cannot use this system.